welcome to the Sentinel High School Football Preview, the first week of the playoffs edition. I'm Perry Mattern alongside Jake Adams as we take a tour around District 3 DoubleA, AAA, and Quad A. The SingleA playoffs will get started next week. Let's start in DoubleA. Boiling Springs at Wyomissing. Out of the 8 teams in Class DoubleA, this will be the 3 seed Wyomissing hosting the 6 seed Boiling Springs.
Yeah, and this one's kind of interesting because Wyomissing is such a power in DoubleA, but we both looked at the schedule a little bit and wondered, can Boiling Springs match up? They've got the running game, obviously, with John Vaughn to do some damage, but Wyomissing's only allowing 3.1 yards per carry this season, so it's kind of a give or take who's gonna give, who's gonna break a little bit. The thing I kind of want to see happen here is Boiling Springs is allowing 4.5 yards per carry. They're going to need a great game up front because this Wyomissing team has 2 guys with at least 17 rushing touchdowns, and that's an insane number.
It really is. Wyomissing, their first loss of the season just came last week. Let's go to AAA, the 10 seed East Pennsboro at the number 7 seed Cocalico.
Yeah, and this one, again, another kind of upset game that we're going to watch for. East Pennsboro coming in the lower seed. They've got to get Brighton Fegley working here because he's only run for about 400 yards basically since week 4. I mean, he looked like he was on pace for 1,000 yards by week 5, and he's just fallen off completely. TJ Stallman's done a very good job picking up that slack there, and they become much more of a pass-first team. Wouldn't say they're like 70-30, but they definitely have more balance there. They've got to find that rhythm there on offense because Cocalico could cause some problems there against them.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that game a little later on. Moving on to the other District 3 AAA game involving a Sentinel area team, that is Redland, the number 5 seed. They host number 12 Solenko, and this will be the first of 2 games this weekend at West Shore Stadium.
Yep.
Redland on Friday, Cedar Cliff on Saturday, and we don't really know much about Solenko.
No, they've got a couple decent runners, and Robbie Heisel and Noah McCardle. They both got about 800 yards on the ground, 5 TDs apiece. Redland, we know, can stop the run, but at the same time, they've been burned by it as well. Phil Overton, you saw a little bit last week, kind of just seems to be you wonder if he's getting burned out a little bit, playing both ways. With Garrett Scott, though, if he gets running, we've seen this in a couple games this year, if he gets running, that opens everything else up, and they seem to just go lights out whenever he gets going both ways. If he can get a little bit through the air, about 100 yards, and let's say 60 to 80 yards on the ground too, and maybe a score or 2, this offense will be okay. And then the defense will be there to pick things up. The defense is solid enough.
Completely agree about Garrett Scott. If he's going, that makes Overton go. They both really play off of each other in a big way in that read option game that Chad Weaver's team likes to run. Penn Manor at Cumberland Valley. This is in the District 3 Quad A playoffs. The number 7 seed Cumberland Valley hosting the 10 seeded Comets. And we don't know a whole lot about Penn Manor other than they eked out a win very early on back in the game in Ireland. They beat Cedar Cliff. Cumberland Valley, though, playing at their peak entering the playoffs.
And Penn Manor, you kind of got to wonder, they've fallen off a little bit. They went 4-1 to start the season, I believe, and now they're 1-3 to end it.
Right.
I mean, they looked like one of the powers in this area, and with the way that they beat Cedar Cliff and how Cedar Cliff then, basically just marched on like nothing else happened, all of a sudden for the wheels to kind of fall off, this opens up the door for CV to have a potentially easy win here. Not to say that Penn Manor is going to roll over, but with the way that the CV defense has played of late, a couple shutouts this season, I mean, they're got to be one of those toughest defenses out there in this field. And if they can play the same game they have basically the past 3 or 4 weeks, it could be just all they need.
Eagles have not allowed a point in their last 3 games. It's going to be over a month on Friday when they blow the whistles.
And you think about that, that's insane.
Right,
like,
it really is.
That?
And you run the ball, play defense, you're going to have a chance. I think they're a very good dark horse in that Quad A bracket. The number 6 seed, one ahead of Cumberland Valley, is Cedar Cliff. And I wouldn't say it's unfortunate, but at the same time, the great thing about the District 3 playoffs, you hope, is that you play someone that doesn't know what you're all about. Cedar Cliff gets lowered off.
And this is one of the few that is a rivalry game, basically. We've got Harrisburg facing a division rival as well, and a couple others from LL and Berks and stuff like that playing each other. This one is kind of intriguing because Lower Dolphin is pointing at Jaden Demi on film and going, there's no way he's getting nearly 300 yards on us and 4 touchdowns again. And Demi's sitting there going, all right, I just did this to them once. I want to do it again. So it's kind of going to be who steps up here. And if you almost got to play a cat and mouse game here if you're Cedar Cliff. Do you try and feed Demi the ball like they did against them a couple weeks ago, Or do you try and use him as almost bait and then let Grant Brenneman beat them over the top?
Right. I think they do set up Demi first because that's really been their game plan all season long. In the first meeting, it was set up Demi, but then they never stopped Demi. So they kept going to him. But last week, they did it perfectly. I mean, they set up Demi against Redland, and he got going a little bit, and that opened up everything for Cedar Cliff. I think the Colts should be the favorite in this game and should win, but I'm just, you're afraid of a letdown because of how big that Redland game is.
Yeah.
It's not a playoff game, but it's bigger to those kids than any playoff.
And they were the clear favorite a year ago against Penn Manor, and they lost too. So, and this is the bottom half of this Quad A bracket is brutal. I mean, you've got CD East, you've got CV, you've got CV's opponent as well, Penn Manor.
Yeah, it's going to be
it's tough.
Very deep, no doubt about it. The final Quad A game that we have the 1 versus 16. Now, if you know anything about March Madness, the 1 versus 16 is the virtual impossible. In basketball, it has never happened. I couldn't tell you the stats on that in football, but Carlisle is the 16, their first time back in the District 3 playoffs since 2005, and as a reward, they get unbeaten Wilson.
And I think Carlisle isn't nearly as shaken by being a 16 seed. I don't think this is going to be a March Madness.
But the thing about it is that is, I think, a great position for them playing with nothing to lose.
Yeah, I've talked with Josh Oswalt after last week's win, this week as well. We'll see what he had to say in a couple minutes. But he just seems very confident, and he's like that to begin with.
Right.
But he likes their odds against this Wilson team. He feels like they play a very similar defense to CV, and going back to that loss against the Eagles, Carlisle moved the ball up and down the field. They just couldn't finish any drive. So if they can just get, across the goal line once or twice more, this is a completely different game here. And if he's that confident against this defense, I mean, Wilson's not going to sleep through this game, you hope, because they've been here before. They've been here, 3 of the past 5 years, I think, to the finals in Quad A. So there's going to be plenty there. They've got to stop Shane Dantzler, though, their running back. There's a question if he's going to be in the game because he's been injured for the past few weeks. But if he is, the kid's averaging 8.5 yards per carry. If not, Tim Whitmore is just more than capable substitute. And this running game is going to challenge Carlisle. And then on the flip side, Okay, we're here with Coach Josh Oswalt from Carlisle. All right, Coach, you guys, how's the celebration been? When did it end for you guys?
Probably Friday night around 10:30. We knew that we were probably going to be having Wilson after looking at some of the early projections, and we knew that we were going to turn our attention to Wilson and get ready for playoffs. What
was the message this week with all the excitement that's been around campus, obviously, for you guys with being there for the first time in 9 years?
Just don't be satisfied with making it. Let's make a statement now that we're in. Everybody's in. It doesn't matter what your record was coming into it. It's time to fight. Playoffs are a different animal, and anybody can win. I mean, that's why you play the game.
This front seven that they have is tough. Passing, they're going to get to the quarterback. Running the ball, they're allowing almost no yards, basically. What do you guys got to do against this front seven to be productive on offense?
Just get after it. Obviously every defense has deficiencies. Every defense has a spot that they can be susceptible to giving up yardage. So we're just going to attack different areas and try to catch them off guard with the things that we do, and just continue to get after it.
And talk about just trying to stop their running game too. Dantzler's been out for a little bit, and Whitmore's been subbing for him, but their run game is averaging over 6 yards a carry. What do you guys got to do to slow them down?
Tackle. Play gap control, have gap integrity, and just wrap an ugly colored jersey that's coming in your gap. I mean, they're good. They're good. Their line does a great job running tracks. Their running backs are tough. Their quarterback's very, very heady, very smart. He runs the ball well too. We just got to take them out of their game and force punts, force turnovers if we can, and just kind of get them out of sorts.
Thank you to Coach Oswalt for taking time to talk with us this week. And now let's talk about these upset possibilities. 3 teams that are underdogs in our Sentinel area, 3 teams that are favorites. Let's talk about the underdogs first. Carlisle, East Pennsboro, Boiling Springs. Who has the best chance to pull one off?
I got to say East Penn. Not that anyone really has an easy ride here, obviously. If you're an underdog, it's going to be a tough battle. Even if you're a favorite, it's a tough battle no matter what. East Pennsboro, those got kind of a lucky break with Cocalico. They're missing their starting quarterback with an ACL injury. So maybe there's a chance there. He's not exactly a throwing team there, but at the same time he could use his legs. I think also if TJ Stallman can keep up the pace that he's at, 25 TDs, 3 interceptions, he's been incredibly efficient. If he keeps this up, this offense will stay in it. And I think that's the key.
I think Fegley, as you mentioned when we talked about this earlier, Fegley's got to be established, though, for that to happen. My pick, actually, I picked this game in our picks. I'm taking Boiling Springs to be Wyomissing. I don't think Boiling Springs is the favorite to win this game, but I think they match up well because they play the same style of game as Wyomissing does, ground and pound, and I love John Vaughn. I think he's just such, you throw the word gamer out there a lot, but he just seems tougher than everyone that is on the football field when he's on it.
And that's coming off of injury, too, last year. He missed all of last season with a knee injury. And I disagree, though. I think Wyomissing, as much as we look at their schedule and wonder, are they actually as good as we think they are? They've been here before. They've done that. And they're not going to look at Boiling Springs with the experience that this team has. They're not going to overlook Boiling Springs. It's only an 18 field, so there's no real room to actually look ahead. It's game by game they got to look at.
Very good points. Now let's go to the teams that we have. Cedar Cliff, Cumberland Valley, and Redland are all favorites to win. Who should be the most worried?
I really think it's Cedar Cliff, just because it's a rivalry game. You mentioned it earlier. You want to go up against someone you don't know because you don't want your weaknesses to be so obvious. And Lower Dolphin and Cedar Cliff know each other very well. Lower Dolphin knows Jaden Demi is going to run the ball if he finds any space. Grant Brenneman can throw. Those defensive backs can make plays. The defense has its good days and its bad days. At the same time, Cedar Cliff knows all Lower Dolphin's strengths and weaknesses. The front lines are very good on both sides of the ball. And I just think that Lower Dolphin is going to want revenge for the way that they lost and how badly Jaden Demi just ran all over them.
No disagreement here whatsoever. I completely agree. I think that's right, and I think if Lower Dolphin can get off to a good start, thoughts start to creep into your head about what happened last year with Cedar Cliff. You know, they had the big win against McDevitt, and then, as you mentioned, were favored in the playoffs and lost.
If they get a hot start, that might be all the difference. It's just this isn't going to happen like last year. Last year they started with a pick, ended with a pick. If they just avoid that, have a good clean drive, maybe get a touchdown out of it, that could be all the momentum they need just to get it out of their heads.
Right. So, all these games, you see people stand out. Jaden Demi stood out when they beat Lower Dolphin earlier this year, and come playoff time, you get people to stand out. And as always, we pick our Sentinel stars to watch. And you took a little liberty in your pick, but I like it.
Yeah, Boiling Springs is front seven on defense I went with because Wyomissing can just run. And Boiling Springs has stopped some teams, but has also been very much exposed. They allow 4.5 yards per carry, which isn't great, it isn't bad either. And they're going to need to have a great game because there's going to be no surprises whatsoever. Wyomissing is going to run the ball first down, run the ball second down, run the ball third down. And if Boiling Springs doesn't establish their run defense early, it's going to be a long night.
Ask anyone in our newsroom, and you'll find out pretty quickly that we love talking to Coach Josh Oswalt. He's a great interview. He's a great coach, but I don't think this team has much of a chance to win on Friday. However, if Billy Berger plays a great game, I think it gives them a chance. He has to be smart, can't make bad decisions. He's going to have to probably get the ball out quickly. Wilson's going to pressure him. He's just going to have to be a lot for Carlisle.
And if you can come up with a pick six like you did last week against Harrisburg, that's going to be an added bonus.
Right. He can play a little defense as well. If Carlisle could pull off the upset, I know we would both be very excited. Jake, you'll be at that game, and you'll be doing two games, as will I. You'll have Carlisle and Wilson on Friday, and then
Boiling Springs,
Wyomissing on Saturday. On Friday, I'll have East Penn and Cocalico, and Saturday I will have Lower Dolphin and Cedar Cliff. Make sure you follow Sentinel HSFB on Twitter. Give us some updates about the games that you're at, pictures, anything like that. We'd love to hear from you. And we will talk to you on Monday here in the Sentinel newsroom about the games in our recap.